Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are minting coins. So there's a lot going on in the news today, and as we talked about in the previous video, we are super excited since Bitcoin BTC has broken past the $5,000 barrier and has reached a new BTC all-time high. This as Bitcoin Gold starts to get airdropped to people, more and more people. Bitcoin.org has denounced specific companies, naming names over the risks of the coming separate S2X Hardfork. And in today's news, why are big banks so nervous about Bitcoin? Why is one bank demanding information on their customers' Bitcoin intentions, or otherwise have this customer have their bank account closed? This is a US bank threatening a US customer. Plus, we're going to touch upon Roger Ver, Bitcoin full nodes, and the upcoming pending Ethereum hard fork. So with all that, let's talk about Bitcoin, let's talk about minting coins, and let's discuss. Hey everybody, so real quick, thanks for showing up, and thanks for being part of the show. Sorry for that the same intro for this show is for the earlier show. Didn't realize how long the earlier show was going to be, and that it's just going to be best for us to break this up into multiple different videos. So if you like a membership at mintingcoins.com, feel free to go over to mintingcoins.com to sign up for a member. And if you don't want to or can't afford the membership, then just shoot me an email and we'll upgrade you for free, as long as we're still in the early stages and it's still manageable to upgrade people's accounts for free. We'd love to have you part of the community and to get keep the dialogue going and continue asking questions there, where we can have more of a camaraderie and people connecting with each other. Also, feel free to check us out on Steemit and like this video. Really appreciate it. It's really helpful, helps other people find this information, and really gives us great motivation to move forward. So let's just jump right into the market, then we'll go into the news, and then we will discuss. So we're living in a world where there are over 1,159 different cryptocurrencies. Our total market capitalization has swelled up about $5 billion, has jumped to $161.8 billion, with a 24-hour trading volume at a healthy $3.8 billion in the past 24 hours. Also with that, the Bitcoin dominance has increased further to 53.3%. So as all of this additional capital has been entering the cryptocurrency universe, the majority of this has been going into Bitcoin BTC for several different reasons. We have the Bitcoin Gold airdrop. We have speculation with the S2X hard fork coming up. There's lots of predictions from the technical analysis people who are seeing Bitcoin go past a $5,000 mark, shooting for a $6,000 and beyond. And lots of people actually predicting that we're going to see a $10,000 Bitcoin as soon as the next 6 months, between the next 6 months and 10 months from now. So very, very exciting times indeed. What do we have here? And so I read an article somewhere that said Litecoin was increasing to $55 to keep pace with the Bitcoin. I mean, maybe for one day, but we've seen Litecoin fluctuating between the 1% and 2% of the Bitcoin price. And so since we're still just over that 1% Bitcoin price, Litecoin I think has a significant way to go. I mean, we could easily see with a $5,000 Bitcoin price, I can hypothetically imagine at least a $75 Litecoin price to be at 1.5% to Bitcoin, but that's just seriously super speculation. If I had $500, I'd rather purchase Litecoin right now than Bitcoin, but that's just me. Yeah, take that as you will. But moving over from the coinmarketcap.com and the US prices and looking at it in the Bitcoin BTC prices, this just emphasizes how we've been seeing the BTC Bitcoin dominance swell up. And looking through this list, almost nothing is green. So we have BitConnect up 0.14% in terms of Bitcoin price. What else is up? Just everything is red down the board. Just Bitcoin is where it's at right now. We have Veritasium actually up significantly, 5.38% in terms of the Bitcoin price. Mona coin up a whopping super 116%. Where's that Mona coin over here? Let's go look at it real quick. Boom, boom. Oh, did I pass it? Yeah, number 53, up 135. So maybe have to look into that later. You know, I wish we were all psychic and we knew that these things were going to pop before that, but I guess that's not how the market works, right? It's like you have to buy it when it's low, and then after it pops like that, usually not a good bet to get into those things after the fact. That's why we just need to pay attention to as much as we can before the news pops. Last thing I want to say about the market real quick, just keep in mind that in the next few weeks here, we're going to be having a lot of different conferences for Ethereum. We're going to be having conferences for Ethereum Classic. That Ethereum Classic conference is probably going to spill over into talking about the Cardano token. And so, you know, we're still expecting to see stuff happen with those as we get some exciting news from those projects in the coming weeks here. So turning to the news and looking over at Reddit, there was this fun NASA image of the day that apparently resonated with a lot of Bitcoiners out there. And you see this rocket ship and pointed straight up, probably headed toward the moon. And, you know, it's a really beautiful photo that really represents a lot of what's happening in terms of the space industry and a lot of what's happening in terms of the crypto industry as well. One a little more figurative than the other's literal interpretation. And here's a fun website that came along. This is rollercoasterguy.github.io. And I gotta go check this when the Bitcoin market is crashing to see if this dynamically changes, so that the Bitcoin GIF is maybe going in the opposite direction when the market's falling down. But this is really interesting. Just, you know, has the Bitcoin price, has some of the market data, has a little widget here that you can use with some additional data points. But I just thought that this was fun. So yesterday, I think it was it the 11th? Yeah, yesterday it was that Bitcoin.org put out this post, and this is something that we shared on Facebook as well. I'll show you that in a second. But Bitcoin.org published this blog post where they're letting everyone know that they're planning to publish a banner on every page of their website warning users about the risks of using services that are going to default to the so-called SegWit2X coin. That some people are calling S2X, other people are calling it B2X, but this, you know, SegWit2X is essentially a contentious hard fork, a hard fork that only some people want, and the majority of those people who want it have a vested interest in centralized mining pools, right? And so these S2X or B2X companies are going to get called out by Bitcoin.org by name. And what Bitcoin.org is simply asking is that they're asking for these companies listed to simply clarify publicly, to very publicly clarify their stance before the above date that this information gets published out there. And so there's really three things that Bitcoin.org is putting out there for the world, asking these companies on behalf of all the users of Bitcoin BTC. And even if you're a supporter of SegWit2X, I do not think that this is a lot to ask for. And so let's go over these three requests. Some people might call them demands, but let's go over them. So the first one they're asking is that any company in the Bitcoin space will not, under any circumstance, list SegWit2X as BTC, nor will they call SegWit2X Bitcoin, because that's going to create a lot of confusion for all the other people in the world who are using Bitcoin and are expecting, you know, the actual Bitcoin, not this alternative version of it. And so if you're a supporter of SegWit2X, then you probably want SegWit2X to be called Bitcoin. But as we see from so many different people in the community and other developers, that there are legitimate risks around the SegWit2X, and there's legitimate concern about the source code that is going to be stemming through SegWit2X. The second request is that any company will not by default do anything that would deprive users of their Bitcoins. So for example, using the SegWit2x software without addressing replay attacks, selling people's Bitcoins automatically, crediting people's Bitcoin deposits only as SegWit2x deposits and sending people SegWit2x coin instead of the Bitcoin coin that they may be expecting. With that being said, providing access to SegWit2x coins is 100% acceptable. No one at Bitcoin Core is saying that they can't do that. What they're simply saying is that if someone wants to receive or is trying to receive or send their Bitcoin BTC, that they're not going to have any shenanigans. They're going to be sending or receiving the SegWit2x on behalf of that person, which is not what the user intended. So you can have both, but don't screw people out of their Bitcoin BTC. The third request here is that any company in the space will continue to provide normal service to Bitcoin BTC. So users of Bitcoin who do not use SegWit2x, users of Bitcoin that are using the traditional Bitcoin Core version, these companies will still support those people and won't drop them. And so these are the three requests that Bitcoin Core is asking for. That they're not going to confuse the name of Bitcoin, A. B, they're not going to do anything that's going to, screw people out of their BTC Bitcoins. And C, that they're going to continue providing normal service to people who continue using the Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin BTC token. And so they go on to state, to restate that we consider it tolerable for companies to support SegWit2x in ways that do not contradict the above 3 points, such as supporting both Bitcoin and SegWit2x simultaneously as separate cryptocurrencies. But by default, they have this list of companies that are known to vocally support the SegWit2x, and they have them in their warning. And so it's just really, really interesting to see this list of companies and to recognize that after the SegWit2x, if you are sending or receiving Bitcoins from any of these companies, that you have a risk of not actually receiving your actual Bitcoins, your actual BTC, and to be left with instead the SegWit2x coin, which, over the course of the next few months or the next few years or the next few days after it gets created, could have a significantly different value in a less than Bitcoin BTC. Now, some people might hope that Bitcoin SegWit2x is more than Bitcoin BTC in terms of the value. I think they hoped the same thing for Bitcoin Cash. And while Bitcoin Cash can always still moon, we see that Bitcoin BTC definitely has that dominance in the space. And so some of these companies that are at risk of, not supporting Bitcoin anymore and instead moving Bitcoin over to the SegWit2x, unbeknownst to people, are companies like Blockchain UK, Block, BTC.com, Circle, Civic, Coinbase, Decentral, which owns Jax. Jax, say it ain't so. Digital Currency Group, they own almost every single company in the space. Grayscale, which is owned by Digital Currency Group. Genesis Mining. So upset about Jax. Shapeshift, via BTC, Zappos, we talked about yesterday. So a lot of different companies out there. And so if you're not paying attention, this might be a good idea to start paying attention, because if you have, Bitcoin in a Jax wallet or in a Coinbase wallet, then I would be concerned if I had money in a Jax wallet or a Coinbase. And, I'll be forthright with you. I have a little bit of Bitcoin in both of those. So I need to, look into that. So in our Facebook page, if you're not following us on Facebook, there is this tweet that James Kirby shared with the Bitcoin group. And so this sort of separates some of these companies by wallet. So you have the wallet category like Coinbase and Circle and blockchain.info, Zappo, stuff like that. You have exchanges like Bitflyer, BTCC, Bitter, ANX in Hong Kong, Coins.ph, Coinbase in the US, Shapeshift all over the world. You have mining pools, other companies as well. So lots and lots of people who are supporting the SegWit2x. And so this post is going on to support the Electrum.org wallet or the Green Address wallet, at Green Addresses IT. I don't have validity for these links. Make sure you double check any of these links that you ever click on. Make sure you double check anything that I say in these videos. But this is just really, really important to, we want to make sure that people have this information so they can make the decision that is best for them. Cool. I thought this was an interesting post over in here on Reddit. This person was saying that a year ago, when the Bitcoin price was about $600, this person tried to give a student some good advice about investing in a Bitcoin, but our personal finance subreddit kind of shot this person down. This person originally posted saying that they're 21 in college, they don't have a lot of debt, and what to do with some of their extra money. And this person, said, "Hey, put it in Bitcoin. You don't know. Could be a good gamble." And this person got shot down to shreds, sort of legitimately, because, while this person said it's a horrible idea, and I don't think any of us would have said it was a horrible idea. They go on to say that the future value of Bitcoins is entirely unpredictable. I'm not sure about the word entirely unpredictable, but the future value of Bitcoins is definitely unpredictable. And you would literally be gambling with your money by putting your money into Bitcoin a year ago, just like you're going to be gambling by taking your money and putting it into Bitcoin now. But at the same time, aren't you gambling by taking your money and putting it in the stock market? Because anywhere you put your money, it's a gamble. Even if you put your money in a bank account and your bank account's giving you 1%, which they don't give you 1%, they give you a nickel of 1%, they give you a 20th of 1%. But say they give you 1%, that's still a gamble, because if the inflation rate is more than 1%, then you're going to be losing money, right? And 9 times out of 10, it definitely seems like the inflation rate is more than 1%. So I just wanted to say that, yeah, this would have been a good bet a year ago. Hindsight is 2020. I don't think investing into Bitcoin is a horrible idea. I don't think it's entirely unpredictable, but yeah, to some degree, it is gambling. What do you guys think about that? Is it to some degree gambling, just like the stock market is gambling? I mean, it's not a sure bet, right? It's just a reasonably assured bet with our perceived understanding. We're taking information, and instead of applying information as truth, we're interpreting this information through the lens of that we decide to live our reality through, to give our lives and our future greater potential. And so, I definitely don't think putting your money in the stock market is the same thing as going to the casino and playing blackjack. And I definitely don't think putting your money in Bitcoin is the same thing as going to the casino and blackjack. So while some people have some truths, I think it's always important to realize that a truth isn't always 100% a truth, right? And speaking of truths, we have big banks, and we have big banks who are very, very nervous about Bitcoin, very, very nervous about the future of cryptocurrency. And that wasn't always the case. There was a time when Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies were primarily used by thieves and drug dealers on the dark web, and that this was nothing to be afraid of. This was just fake monopoly money hiding in the darkness. And this wouldn't, drug dealers typically don't use banks anyway, so this wasn't their clientele. But what's happening now with Bitcoin skyrocketing run in value, and we're seeing it break all-time highs today, as well as the adoption increasing, mainstream acceptance increasing, all of this has led to banks and regulators getting very, very nervous. And this is creating knee-jerk reactions, as we've been seeing with regulations and statements coming out of the banks. And, I don't know, sometimes it seems like they're knee-jerk reactions, and sometimes it seems like it's market manipulation. And it's probably a little healthy balance of both of those dysfunctional aspects, if you ask me. So, so why are they nervous? There's just a major power shift happening. Banks have existed unchallenged for literally hundreds of years, practically longer, right? I mean, I suppose there was some challenge to banks about, literally 100 years ago, but even then, they were able to rather easily control their dominance through the turn of the century. And we also have, people like John McAfee who have been brazen and bold about regulators' power plays to try to control Bitcoin, saying that they're never going to be able to ban it. And this might be annoying some of these bankers to some degree. This might be making them nervous, and this might be adding to making them reactionary, realizing that it's not so easy just to eliminate the Bitcoin threat. So, so what's going on here? So as stated in the article, we have the power and control of money being ripped away from traditional institutions, being ripped away from Wall Street and traditional investor circles. We have individuals, normal people like you and I, who can now enter into direct peer-to-peer trusted exchanges with strangers that none of us trust. And we don't need the third parties to act as a centralized middle person to vouch for each other anymore. It's like we can now do this with just each other. Just like we no longer needed AT&T to make phone calls, we no longer need financial institutions to be the middlemen. And 3 here, just like the fax machine, the library, and even metered taxis, new technologies have come along and made these existing institutions more obsolete. Banks are just realizing that people aren't putting as much money in the banks. People are instead shifting more of their money to Bitcoin. People aren't using the middlemen as often as they were, because now these technologies are here. They do exist. They have utility. They have application. People are using them. And there's no stopping this progress. Even with the state-backed regulations and all of the additional money coming into space and all the manipulation coming into the space and all the coordination from either banks or governments and institutions and regulators, people are now able to control their own money. People are now able to manage the trusted relationships, the trusted transactions, the trusted messages between each other. And now banks have every reason to be nervous. And with this nervousness, we have this crazy story coming out of Reddit being posted on Cointelegraph.com. So what we have here is a post, and you can click over to here. This word post is a hyperlink to the Reddit page by a PNC Bank account holder Thursday that recounts how the bank contacted them demanding to know why Bitcoin had been purchased from the exchanges of Coinbase and Zappo. And so this person goes on to say that they've had this banking relationship with PNC Bank for 15 years, and they just got this call to verify, quote unquote, unusual activity. The bank goes on to confirm a couple transactions and then asked, for what purpose are you buying Bitcoin? And so this user refused to divulge the purpose. The bank's and then the bank's representative threatened to close this person's account. I mean, how brazen is that? And so this account holder told him that they wouldn't answer. And then the representative then asked, what are you going to do with the Bitcoin? And this was just back and forth. This has to be very annoying. And some people are just going to say, I'm buying it to hold, or I'm buying it for investment, or I'm buying it because I don't trust the banks. Whatever the case may be, the person didn't want to answer. I'm sure this is a legitimate person with a legitimate bank account that's buying Bitcoin from an exchange that's highly regulated. They're not going to be buying this for drugs. That would just be, stupid, right? It's like, side note, every Bitcoin transaction in the world is being tracked, right? It's like, if anyone thinks Bitcoin is private, I mean, you guys are delusional. I mean, or just not up to speed on what's happening in the space. I mean, there's practically no way to make Bitcoin private in the current contexts of how this exists, right? It's like these tumblers probably don't work 100%, and there's definitely probably some software that can hack them. There's hundreds of millions of dollars going into the space to work on tracking every single Bitcoin transaction in the world, tagging it. And so even if your transaction, your address is completely private for you, as soon as you send that to another address that has a tag on it, you're now connected with that tag on that address, and it's just much, much easier to figure out who you are, what you're doing, and everything that you've done with all of your transactions. So long story short, Bitcoin is not private, and I think most people, especially criminals, don't use Bitcoin for criminal activity, despite what some news might want you to believe. So, long story short, the story goes on to end that, again, that this person wouldn't answer the question. And then the representative informed the account holder that the security team said that they would exit the relationship with the account holder if they didn't give satisfactory answers. And so this just goes on to state that this isn't necessarily unusual in the often bizarre relationship that banks have with cryptocurrencies. But this is something that people need to be aware of, and what banks are doing, how banks are treating this, how banks are perceiving this, because as the previous article was stating, banks are getting very, very nervous, and they're getting increasingly nervous about this. We were looking at Goldman Sachs yesterday. Goldman Sachs is talking about getting into Bitcoin. Or not for it, they're not against it. In the past, Goldman Sachs has said bad things about Bitcoin, how it's going to be decreasing in value and whatnot, of which it did. But these other banks are probably worried that the bigger banks are going to get a jump on them, or that these smaller banks or big banks just overall are going to lose customers, and they're probably trying to get the information that they can, scare people where they can, do whatever they can to hold on to their business, because as the previous article stated, they're going through these death spirals as the reality is starting to sink in that it's not so straightforward to destroy Bitcoin, and the process of conquering and dividing Bitcoin is while it's possible in a successful scenario, dividing and conquering Bitcoin can weaken it significantly. I still don't think it's possible to completely destroy Bitcoin, right? They can just slow it down, stunt it. Yeah. Okay, so going on, we have Tor de Meester, who has this quote concerning the unlimited fiat money supply, and touched upon this topic, and highlighted a quote from the U.S. Federal Reserve on the issue. And so Tor de Meester says, imagine if Satoshi's white paper said, Bitcoin's total money supply doesn't really matter. Well, that's what the Federal Reserve said. They said their total money supply doesn't really matter. If anyone that, even who doesn't understand finance starts to think about this, they're going to recognize, oh, wait a minute, it does matter. The total money supply does matter, because the more supply in the market, with the same demand, then the value is going to go down, right? We're not going to get into the inflationary versus the deflationary, but hey, there's a reason everyone wants Bitcoin, because they know there's never going to be more than 21 million. And right now there's only 16.6 million. And if everybody in the world wanted one, that would literally be impossible. So what are we going to do? This is what I recommend. Hodl. Hodl like Hodor. Hodor, hodl. Hodor, 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 Hodor. Hodl. Hodl. Sorry. I love this image. It's pretty cool. All right, back to the banks. So I just wanted to bring this up again. I know we talked about this before, but I don't think this could be really overstated enough. That as JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon was slamming Bitcoin, his company was inviting tech gurus to explain blockchain technology to top managers. And so just the further hypocrisy of the situation. So check out this tweet from Bart Stevens. Oh, that's why they use the picture of Bart above. So while Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan was bashing Bitcoin, his San Francisco office was hosting Blockchain Capital, Pantera Capital, Boost VC, and Polychain Fund. Very interesting. So just again, the hypocrisy of what's going on in the situation. There's this quote over here from Stevens saying, I would encourage Jamie Dimon and others to do their homework first. This is not a matter of fraud. It's not a Ponzi scheme. It's a robust technology that's going to impact multiple industries. Don't discount it. So yeah, so there's a lot happening with Bitcoin, a lot happening with the control of Bitcoin, a lot happening with the expansion inside the cryptocurrency space. There's going to be more and more happening, we predict, in terms of the regulations, the control. We said for a long time that Bitcoin's probably going to become more regulated and more frowned upon and more illegal before Bitcoin becomes more legal. Just like gold did, right? It's everything is so similar. What's happened with gold in the past 100 years, and what's happened with the internet and P2P technology in terms of communications technology over the past 30, 40 years, it's just an indication of everything coming down the pipeline with gold. And so with Bitcoin, if you really care about Bitcoin, if you're really interested in Bitcoin, what do you want to do in the Bitcoin space to give you that much more power and that much more control is running a full node. And so here we have this image that shows the flip-flop of Roger Ver. And so we have these two different tweets. And so we have this one tweet where he says, think running a dedicated Bitcoin full node is too expensive. Check out my $85 Raspberry Pi Bitcoin Classic setup. So $85, Roger Ver was able to run a Bitcoin full node. There wasn't a date on this, but I found a date. I'm going to show it to you in a second. And we have the second tweet, only a node that is mining a true full node. Only a node that is mining is a true full node. The rest are just slowing down the propagation of blocks between the real full nodes. And so this is what he used to say, and this is what he says now. We have the exact tweets right here just to show you. This is what he said last year. Let's see, about almost about a year and a half ago, pushing about to be 2 years ago. This is what he said, and now he's updated to a year later to say that that's no longer the case. And so it's just really interesting to see that flip-flop of what a full node is and what they're trying to say a full node is, because ultimately if you're running one of these nodes, and even if you're not mining, if you're running a node and someone else is trying to get a block through and they're trying to get that block through and it doesn't match the rules, then if it doesn't match the rules, it gets rejected. It doesn't matter if you're a mining node or if you're not a mining node and you're just like a regular node. If you're a regular node or a node that's mining, if you're a regular node that's not efficient enough to create Bitcoin profits versus a node that is powerful enough to create Bitcoin profits, both of those are processing the Bitcoin network. Both of those are rejecting transactions or blocks that are illegal, right? That go against the protocol of the network. And so the more people that are running any node, the better. Even if it's one of those little rinky-dink nodes where they'll never ever make any money, but you just use it to like charge your phone or to plug in your USB. Have you seen those? What I'm talking about? They're mining devices, they're little nodes, but they'll never make money because of the low hash rate that these things have. Those things are still running processing the blockchain. And so the more people we have running nodes, the more decentralized Bitcoin technology is. What do we have here? Okay, cool. And then last but not least in today's news, just wanted to touch upon the Ethereum hard fork that's coming down the pipeline. It's the first half of the Metropolis update called Byzantium. And so what we have, so what we have is a major update to the Ethereum network. It's the first half, as we just said, Byzantium. The first half of Metropolis is called Byzantium. And this is going to be happening at block number 4,370,000, or in about 4 days or so, according to the current metrics. And so this is going to be promising to do a lot of good things for Ether and for Ethereum. For example, let's see here. For example, these changes are designed to make the platform lighter, to make Ethereum lighter, to make Ethereum faster to run, to improve the transaction speed and smart contract security. And perhaps down the line, this will also help with the privacy for Ethereum as well. So if you're someone that is running a client, or if you are someone who is mining Ethereum, if you're someone who is running an exchange, working an exchange, if you're an application developer, then I definitely recommend you check out this article at coindesk.com to go a little bit deeper into what's happening and to help prepare you for this upcoming fork. If you're just a user, just hold your coins, and preferably in your using your Trezor, your Ledger Nano S, or your Keep Key, and you'll be fine. But everybody else needs to think about updating their systems and just making sure that they're going to be continuing to reference the the latest, most popular, most authoritative version of Ethereum moving forward. after the Byzantium hard fork. So with all that being said, thanks for showing up and thanks for being part of this video. This is our 101st video for minting coins. We are super, super excited. And it's also exciting that this all happened on a day that Bitcoin has broken the $5,000 barrier. So that's a lot of fun as well. But with that being said, we really see all this craziness in the market with the Bitcoin dominance increasing, with all the altcoins decreasing. And I think we all know it's only a matter of time before that reverses. And I'm not saying the price of Bitcoin is going to go down significantly, but I think that the amount of money going into the space is going to increase as people start looking at these altcoins and the opportunities, because I think they're just, I mean, we have some tokens on 60% sale, 50% sale in terms of, you know, what I would think that their value is. Yeah, so that's a lot of information here and what we see coming up from the banks and how the banks are treating this and how the banks are about to jump into this double dutch of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And you know, hopefully they don't trip when they jump in. And when they do jump in, hopefully, you know, if these guys are going to be whales and it's going to disturb the water, it's going to rock the waves. And so we all need to be really, really prepared as we see the shift of traditional banks and whatnot into the Bitcoin space. Yeah, so with that being said, super exciting, a lot more news coming, and really excited to bring you that news. Please like this video if you found this video helpful. Subscribe to our channel so you get the latest information coming out of minting coins. Make sure to check us over on Steemit as well. Follow us on Steemit at Minting Coins. Also, I'm on Steemit at Gary Palmer JR. And last but not least, if you want to become a member of Minting Coins, come over to the website, sign up for our membership, shoot us over an email, and we'll upgrade your account for free if we are still in the early stages and the early adopter phase of our community over here to develop this community and to bring more information to each other and to the world. So with that being said, thanks for showing up again for the 10th time, and I'm glad that together we are minting coins.